Welcome to this episode of the Chamber Connection podcast. Here's a question for you. Is your chamber future ready? In this episode, Steve and I sit down with Todd Letts. If you don't know him, you should, to explore why members join and, more importantly, stay with your chamber. Todd shares his revolutionary membership segmentation model, helping chambers to overcome that "I just don't see the value" at renewal time. From different membership models to tips on becoming a future-ready chamber, there's a lot to unpack in this one, so let's get started.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here and joining us for another wonderful episode of Chamber Connection. And super excited to have our guest here today, Todd Letts. So Melanie and I are just super thrilled to have you here and want to introduce you quickly to everybody who I don't know who, but maybe some people don't know exactly who you are, but let's ease them into it. But Todd's highly rated speaking engagements have informed and delighted business audiences and chamber executives worldwide. His popular Todd Letts blog provides helpful insights for chamber leaders on both strategic and operational issues. Todd is often invited to facilitate board retreats, strategic planning sessions focused on building future-ready chambers of commerce. I love that line. And other services include executive coaching, member focus group facilitation, governance training, team building, onboarding, advocacy, revenue development. I'm sure the list continues there. He currently serves as the World Chamber Federation Vice Chair for the Americas. Todd, how did you find the time to do all that and then also join us to be here for this Chamber Connection? Wow.
Wow, it's all about priorities, and I think you two are doing an amazing job with this, and I want to support it. Congratulations to you. You're both great leaders in your provinces, and this is a really progressive initiative. So thank you so much for the opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Thank you, Todd. I mean, obviously you and others like you have paved the way. You know, Todd and I met more than a couple of years ago when I actually sat on our board and Todd came in and did our strategic plan exercise, which really opened my eyes. I remember as a board member at the time as everything a chamber could be. You know, I think we all know what we are, but I think being, you know, the leaders of the future is imagining who we could be. And then I remember at our first CCEC, Todd, I came up to you and I said, "Oh, this is a profession. I get it now." And I really felt inspired at that conference about the quality of the individuals in our network. You have definitely been a big part of that. So thanks for joining us. So if you're ready, we've got some great questions just to kind of set the stage for everybody. What we want to talk today is about, you know, chamber membership, specifically the different kinds of membership models that are out there, but more specifically how they deal with member segmentation to make sure that you're being all that you can be for each level of membership. So you know, they say if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber, and you've definitely headed up a few different chambers and been around. So can you tell us about the different membership models that are out there? Because not everybody has the same one.
Yeah, it's a great question. Stephen mentioned earlier that I represent you folks at the World Chambers Federation. So what is really interesting is there's public law chambers and there's private chambers. Here in North America, we're private, and there's a couple of different models that we'll talk about. But let's talk about the public law model, for example. It's mandatory membership in places like France and Italy and Austria and Germany. Can you imagine? You don't have to worry about accounts receivable.
Oh,
The
great.
Paris Île-de-France Chamber of Commerce has 800,000 members.
Wow.
So it's a different scale in some of the European public law chambers of commerce. But of course, here in North America, it's voluntary membership, and still the majority formula. There's two or three that I think most chambers use. The majority, I think, is still the fair share model. That's a model of dues based on the number of employees that you have. The second one that's growing is a tier due or a benefit bundled model that more closely ties the value of services and products to the membership level. And that ties closely to the age and stage of the business.
Mhm.
There's a third one that is not used by a lot of chambers, but a lot of chambers are thinking of it, and that is something happening out of Fox Cities, Wisconsin. Their Chamber Connect model has free membership for the smallest businesses in the community. They just won Chamber of the Year in the ACCE. So that's kind of interesting, and keeping an eye on that because, you know, for restaurants, for example, a lot of the owners are so busy, can't get out to events that chambers wouldn't really lose a lot of revenue. They would gain a lot of members for a basic membership, and you know, there's always the opportunity that as the more they get to know the chamber, the more upgrading or to a new level that they could go to as well. So that's something that's on the horizon. But fair share, of course, is what most chambers use by employee count. But there's a couple of problems with it. One, you never know if you're getting the accurate employee count from the business, and that could change rapidly up and down as well. And administratively, like it's just the accuracy is just not the best. As well, some look at it as penalizing job growth. The more members you have, the larger the fee that the chamber provides. So a lot of chambers are rethinking the business model right now, and it's timely because we're now seeing millennials as those in their 30s and 40s roughly that are the majority on the age of our business communities, of our members as well. We still have lots of X and boomers, some in their 20s as well, coming up in Gen Z, but the majority, over 50%, are either millennials or X. And the millennials are really focused on social impact. They want to know about purpose. And so this tiered or benefit bundled model allows you to set up 4, 5, 6 levels that specifically target what is of interest to those businesses. So you know, I can show you a little model if you want, the member segmentation model that is kind of the basis for the tiered dues or the bundled benefit. But those are the 3, and if you take into the public, the 4 basic formulas of membership that are out there in Chamberland these days.
So, and do you see, I mean, I think we can, you know, if I look at my chamber, you know, the pros of the fair share is that that's what I've got and it's easy to implement. Certainly I can see that people are fudging on how many employees they have. Absolutely. But I don't want to feel like I'm calling my members liars either, right? But what on the tiered model level, you know, I can see the pros right off the get-go, but what would the cons be of that? You know, if someone was considering switching, what would they need to consider?
Well, I was thinking of that, you know, and many of us have been aware of the bundled benefit tiered dues structure, but have been hesitant to implement it. Now, why? Is it because there's a con? I don't know about that, but I know that in Brampton, before I brought it in, I waited a number of years because I wanted to ensure that I had a stable communications team, that I had the collateral that explained what the different levels and what the difference between the levels were. And so timing is everything, right? I think, you know, a lot of chambers are aware of it, know that chambers are moving in that direction, moving away from fair share, but you just have to feel comfortable that you've got the communications people and processes and collateral in place to explain it. I sometimes think we overthink it, Melanie. It's not that difficult to understand. And, you know, we anticipated, okay, so, you know, let's do a forecast, a scenario of what, how many members we might lose as a result of this. No, we didn't lose any members at We had maybe one past president ask what it was about. It was a legitimate question, but we overthought of it. And my only regret is that we didn't do it sooner rather than later.
And like an example, our chamber went from having a lot of those tiers where it was, your 1 to 5s and your 5 to whatever, and it was so complicated. And again, tracking, was everybody honest? We don't know. So we just took our average and kind of figured out what's that happy medium. The other discussion was why would one chamber in a way pay a lot more than another, even for those base like those requirements that the chamber is offering. So like, how do you justify those differences? But for those that are maybe making that change, with those members that could be paying that little bit more, making sure that you're still got those programs and investments that they could make, because you're leaving dollars on the table, even though you maybe averaged out your membership for that income, they'd still be willing to put some more money into your chamber. So making sure you're capturing that moment, right?
Yeah, you make a really good point there, Steve. And having the courage to make a change in your business model should be done with you setting your levels at a net positive revenue. We need more money as chambers of commerce
Yes.
in general. We need more money, yes, to meet the needs of these new millennial business owners. We need to invest in technology for data to know what works and what doesn't work. We need to invest in training for our staff on digital engagement strategies and data analytics. And so making a change in your business model so that your levels are net positive revenue that allows you to bring in some training, to bring in some staffs, to bring in some contractors. Like I say, my only regret is I didn't do it fast as soon as I should. It's certainly been a boon for Brampton and for other chambers of commerce, smaller and larger, that have implemented it recently.
Perfect. I want to kind of continue this conversation, but kind of shift gears a little bit and do something we haven't done before on here. And you've got some great tools and resources we've seen throughout the years, Todd. Wondering if you can share one of, or a few of them maybe, but like talking about one of the frameworks that you have, this quadrant layout, and that helps chambers better understand their memberships. Could you share that with us and
Sure.
explain that resource and how that works for planning and programming and sponsorships?
Sure.
Can I just add quickly, my favorite moment of conference last year was when the presenter shared this and everyone in the room went, "That's Todd's." So
Yeah.
it's gone far and wide. So it's definitely worth a revisit.
Now, this is something that we put together. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let me put it on slideshow. And yeah, to your point, Melanie, this is a model that we developed at the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce back in 2005, and it's become an industry standard. I shared it with our association network across North America here back in 2007, and then when the Horizons document, a seminal document that ACCE put together, they featured it as well. And like I say, it's become an industry standard, which is great. It's great to be able to help folks out. So I'll be really quick on this. The best way to explain bundled benefits, or what we call value pack business model at the Brampton Board of Trade, is to take a look at a 2x2 matrix. You have a horizontal line, and businesses below are primarily interested in what they can get from the Chamber of Commerce. They're very much enterprise folks. That's their stage of business. But there's a lot of businesses that are interested in what can get done through the Chamber of Commerce, perhaps the building of roads, the recruitment of doctors, that type of thing. So the first step in understanding and segmenting your members is determining where their focus is. Some might be on productivity. How can you help me save time, save money, grow my business? Or others might be interested in how can you help the quality of life for our community and for my employees. We're trying to retain our employees, recruit employees. What is the chamber? What can happen through the chamber to improve the quality of life in our community? Of course, we want to get their membership dollars, but that's not it. We also want to get their time. So this vertical line is kind of a time line. Those businesses to the left of the vertical line don't have a lot of time to come to our events. Those to the right do. And we want to get them involved, not only their time, but their sponsorship, their advertising, leveraging their networks, etc. Truly, particularly with the millennials now, we want to position all of our marketing, all of our communications, all our services in a way that inspires our members, that we're doing good for the community, that there is social impact as well as economic impact. So this 2x2 gives us kind of a convenient way to label members. So the bottom left, those that don't have a lot of time and are primarily interested in their enterprise, we call business investors. Business investors might be restaurant owners, for example. They can't really leave the kitchen very often, but they can get benefit from the Chamber of Commerce through our directory, for example, or through our group insurance program. Business builders, they do have some time. This might be our real estate folks, those that are building their book of business. They'll always show up at our business after hours with a fistful of business cards, and they really do want to grow and be seen. Community investors are those above the horizon there. Again, these might be some of our tech companies or manufacturing companies that don't sell a dime in our region, but can nonetheless benefit from the Chamber of Commerce, as I said, for the community work that we do in, building, supporting community centers, recruitment of doctors, roads, etc., bus routes, those types of things. And then community builders is a label that we give to those that do have time and are interested in more of the prosperity initiatives, community focused. And those might be a lot of our volunteers on our board of directors for sure. Those folks are interested in building a legacy, leaving a legacy for the good of the community. So if we think of our services and the way we communicate to our members in these simple 4 quadrants, we can then go the next step and, move from fair share to 4 benefit bundles. Some chambers do as few as 4 different levels, but others, like in Brampton, but others like in Central York, in Thunder Bay, have done 4 to 6 as well, just to how they fit their benefits in with the various segments. So just to recap again, business investors, they're very transactional. They're interested in how the return on their investment, if we can show them that they get $401 back in stability and insurance, affordability of insurance, of the advertising through the directory, etc., they will continue to be members. On the business builder side, where our messaging should be, your membership will help you find more customers faster. Community investors, you can be seen through the chamber as a leading, caring, social responsible business, and your financial and your volunteer investment for community builders is making a positive difference in the quality of life for many in our region. So that's kind of the key messaging. And when we take a look at typical business communities, most of the chamber members are below that horizon, close to 75% in some case. And many chambers just cater to them. And to Stephen's earlier point, we might be leaving some money on the table. We definitely are leaving some money on the table if we're not serving the manufacturers, the tech companies, those more mature companies, those that may not sell in the domestic market, but exporters, for example, and they tend to have more money. So even though they're smaller in number, maybe only represent 25%, they can write big checks to support the very worthy initiatives that you and your staff team are doing. Of course, business builders, if they get involved with the chamber, they may be a potential pool of volunteers for the future. And as community investors move through their various stages of development, they may in fact go from startup companies or tech companies, young companies, into legacy companies as well. So that's the basic bottom line. And, you know, the way you communicate, email or what you provide in terms of advanced registration for business builders, how you communicate on X, Twitter, or Facebook. Visits are really important to community investors. They want to know that your annual report, for example, what you promised at the beginning of the year, it was delivered on. So it just helps you segment programs, services, communications, and helps bring in more revenue so that you can do the amazing things that you need to do now and what you forecast your business community will need in the near future. So that's just the member segmentation matrix.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing
Love
that,
it.
Todd.
You know,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead. We have so many
Oh,
questions.
I know. I'm just wondering, so for that, like for anybody that doesn't know about that model or that's a refresher for them, oh, I should probably focus this a little bit more. So there's a little proactive work that maybe needs to be done, or those conversations with your members to figure out where they fit, and then you can kind of tailor what your targets are or understand what the makeup of your membership and maybe like navigate ways that way on what programs you have to offer or
That's a very
right?
good point. That's a very good point, Steve. And yeah, the background work before you introduce a model involves you and your staff team maybe looking at your 700 members and making an educated guess which level and what benefits would be of most interest and assigning them just by gut feel from what you know. A better way would be to say, hey, we're thinking of providing more value, and we have a concept of business builders, investors, community investors, and builders. Where would you most likely align, and describe each of the four, and have them self-select? Those are two methods that it's worthwhile to do in order to. It's part science, it's part art, isn't it? But those are two tools that can help out. Yeah.
Well, I think the key too, and what I certainly get every time we talk about this is that it's not going to be overnight, right? So we have to take our time in and not only doing it properly, but bringing people along with us as we change. And the people that aren't going to like it just aren't going to like it. And that's okay. You know, if I think about who I fight with on a yearly basis for renewing, they're not the business, you know, they're not the community investors or the builders. They're the people that, you know, I'm trying to show them that extra 50 cents that they got out of their chamber membership this year versus last year. And that's okay, but you know, it's interesting. My smaller chamber members are the ones actually that take more resources from me, which is fine. That's why we're here, right? Any interaction with a member is a valuable one. But so let's say, you know, at the Halton Hills Chamber, we're looking at switching or modifying our membership structure. What things should we be aware of before we make that change? Should it be a potential loss? You know, if you've got a company that's paying $800 a year on a tiered or on a fair share model, you know, is there a risk that they take the least amount of engagement? Should you be offering programming before you make the switch? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, it's important again not to overthink it. It's a conversation that you should be prepared for. You don't necessarily have to have a conversation with each of your members. You can articulate it in your normal communication vehicles. But yeah, you might want your finance person to do a little risk scenario. So what's the worst case scenario? Again, the chambers that have made made this move, the worst case scenario never came through. In fact, it was almost overwhelming. Over 90% of members liked what was happening. They understand that our institutions are businesses as well, nonprofit businesses, and we're able to more closely now tie the benefits and services to the value. Our cancellations, our deactivations, the most popular reason is perceived no value, right? Or unperceived value. So this model kind of directly fits or negates that reason. They can see the value, and if they don't like the value in this level, we've got three other levels that they can take a look at. So you'll want to spend some time with your team and make a guess. What do we know about our members and where do we think they would fit? You want to sit down with your finance person and saying, okay, if we want this to be net positive, what do we set the lowest level at? And there's probably not going to be much change in the lowest level.
Right.
And you can have bigger increments in your higher levels. And again, a couple $100 to a larger corporation is not very much. It's all percentages. So that's kind of the things that you need to do in advance, is a little bit of that math, what are the major benefits in terms of visibility and tickets and advocacy, etc. Where do they fit in your model? And then, of course, you may want to do a focus group, but you definitely want to spend some time with your board of directors to make sure that they understand it. But that's about it. That's about it. It's just normal due diligence that you would do. Yeah.
And so even as a smaller chamber, if you, so let's say I'm a one-person chamber, and I think this might be something I want to implement in a year or two, because it takes a little longer when you're a smaller chamber. What are things that you can start doing now? Is it changing your communication, how you communicate with your members? Is it doing that segmentation? So what advice would you give to someone who just wanted to start?
Yeah, I think that's it, is take a look at your current membership list. And I mean, as a sole CEO, you can always call on a couple of volunteers to help you out. And just go through the membership list and then take a look, and then you set your rates. You assign your benefits to each of the bundles. That you can have it all set and ready to go. And then the last component is really communicating it. So when you communicate it in a brochure or a letter or an email, etc., you'll just want to demonstrate that here's why we're doing it. Here's the level that we think is best for you. We're happy to have a conversation with you if you like, and please know that this will help us strengthen our capabilities so that we can provide better advocacy for you, more economic and community development, and a healthy organization for the long term.
Yeah, good tips.
Yeah, great. And so kind of a little along those lines, but like, how do you, for making sure that you are keeping in line with what your members' needs are, like what are some signals or some data that a lot of the a chamber should be kind of looking for and keeping track of when it comes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We're kind of at a tipping point now, 2025. We're at a tipping point. What I mean by that is millennials and Gen Zs are now the majority of our memberships, and we need to have a robust feedback loop. So for example, I'm an Xer, and if I wanted to get a message out to members my age, we would send an email with an attachment. Well, that's not what's preferred now by millennials. They want a link. Not a PDF attachment. And where I would pick up the phone and call somebody, millennials, phone is the last thing. Send me a text. Exactly. Yeah. And again, as an Xer and a boomer, we've not really used text we've kind of avoided it, but it's now preferred. But the world is changing, right? I mean, I go to the grocery store and I end up paying like 50 cents for a bag because I keep forgetting my bags. And the clerk doesn't bag my stuff anymore because
Right.
she doesn't want to touch my dirty grocery bag. And if I want to take Stephen or Melanie out for lunch on a Monday, I have to call the restaurant first because they may not be open on Mondays and or for lunch. So everybody understands that the world is
Mhm.
changing in terms of ability to attract staff, the demographic shift. Changes in work ethic and the workplace, digital transformation. There's just a boatload of change happening right now, and it's really there's a lot of churn in our industry as well
Mhm.
of chamber leaders, and so that this change does bring about opportunities, and we need to really make sure that we explain to our boards that the training line, the professional development line in our budgets will be increasing and has to increase
Has
because
to.
we need people with digital analytics skills. We need people that can tell a story and prepare a digital engagement strategy. And that's why looking at ways to bring on new revenue and reevaluating the business model and segmenting and more closely connecting benefits to the membership dues really, really important right now because these big changes are expensive. And if we don't get ahead of it, there will be other community agencies,
Yes.
maybe government funded,
Mhm.
that will better serve those members, or there may be online forums that they think will better serve them as well. So we really got to get ahead of this, and a lot of chambers are.
You know
Are
what's
you
interesting with that? Sorry, Steve, I was just going to throw
never?
it to you because you and I
Yeah.
had this conversation. A lot of chamber members don't, or a lot of chambers don't think they should be making money.
Mm.
And listen, I monetize everything. If I, if I could monetize a sit down with me, I probably would. But because we have to run like a business so that we can serve our memberships, you can't have that servant leadership without the funds. And to your point, if I've had board members ask me, can you forecast membership sales? Well, not really. I mean, because we don't really know why people join because we've never tracked it. If we
Mhm.
don't know why people are coming in and why they stay, you can't forecast how to make that happen in the future.
Yeah, you make a really good point. If you're not looking at ways to bring in new revenue, you're going to be a candidate for merger. And we're seeing a lot more mergers of chambers of commerce across the country. That's not a bad thing.
Mhm.
Um, but it's really important that if you decide just to be complacent and not to and ignore the very real changes that are happening. A new competitor is going to pop up in your community, or your board. You're not going to be able to keep your staff, and
Mhm.
your board and the leadership at the time is going to say, "Well, why don't we just join with the neighboring chamber?" And sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's not appropriate. So, if you want to control your own destiny, you want to go into this new 10 years, this new decade, um, thinking that, nonprofit, Melanie, to your point, is a tax category. It's not a business
Yeah.
strategy. It's not a business strategy.
Oh, I
And
love that. Yeah.
yeah, we definitely need to be bringing regular surplus on the bottom line to prepare for the reality checks that are coming this way.
I'm just curious with your finger on the pulse with so much chamber out there, but for a lot of our discussion, for someone maybe thinking like this might be a daunting task. Like there's so much more that maybe I have to do. I have to keep adding and adding and adding. But if you add too much, what are you dropping in a way? Because like we can
Mhm.
only handle so much, especially as a one person chamber or staff or like you got a small team or something like that. But I'm curious if you're seeing Todd in your world where are there chambers not exactly streamlining, but like, are they kind of going in the backwards direction? Like, like being more selective on their offerings for their chamber members? Are they cutting things? Are they focusing and leaning in on certain specialties and then kind of doing away with some stuff? But maybe, maybe it does seem like they're adding, but they're getting better and strategic at things.
Oh, the honeycomb's up. He's got
Oh, there
he's
you
got a
go.
slide.
So maybe I didn't explain too good at the first time we shared something, but anybody that's listening, any of our listeners out there, Todd's now sharing a resource. So it's up on the screen. So depending if you are on Spotify, if we put up the video content on there, you should be able to see it here as well. You might want to switch over, but yeah, here we go, Todd. Dive into it. What are you showing us here?
Well, you ask a very good question. So, when we think we need to do more to serve the expectations of more demanding customers, is there anything that we can leave behind? Was your question, and it is difficult for chambers of commerce to kill the sacred cow, right? And that might be the golf tournament. That might be business after hours or the time of day. And to answer the question, what can we let go of? This honeycomb model encourages chamber leaders to look at 6 relevant areas to help them make those tough decisions. It starts with catalytic leadership. It involves a true exploration of all of our services, your business model, and bringing about innovation. We talked about stakeholder segmentation. It requires culture change because we have to be intentional in reinforcing the societal impacts of the good work of the Chamber of Commerce to attract staff and to attract new members. Progressive governance in terms of getting the right people on your team, and then your tech stack, the operations and process innovations, what parts of AI are you using, what project management tools, what communication tools, etc. That's a general overview of the 6 areas that chamber leaders are looking at now to build the chamber of the future. Back to your question. It all starts with leadership, right? And the most important, there are 4 important components to the type of leadership that chambers need going forward. This is leadership from us, from our staff, and from our boards of directors. And the first one is, we're no longer an institution that simply helps our members cope with change. We actually are helping bring about change in our communities, a better understanding of what's happening in the workplaces and in the marketplace. What that means is the future, the leaders that we need and the type of leadership that we need going forward is comfortable with experimenting, taking small risks. In the development of software, they have something called the A/B test, where you set something in motion, you check the outcome. If it didn't meet what we want, then if B didn't meet what A projected, then we go on to the next experiment. And it's okay to fail. It takes leadership that understands it's okay if we fail, as long as it's a small failure and we learn from it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, our leaders truly have to represent the brand, have to be able to clearly articulate the brand. And this is part of the culture change as well. But our board directors and our team must feel comfortable that we're doing women's leadership events, and we're doing environmental forums, and we're doing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and publications and research and events, because that's who we are. We believe in these things. We take a stand on these things. Other things really upset us, and we have to be able to clearly articulate what each of those categories are. That's the leadership. And the last 2 things is, board of directors need to truly support CEOs and bring in CEOs that have some perhaps digital experience, have some or are willing to learn, and the leadership we need has to support professional development. That's the type of catalytic leadership that's required, that will help you to make decisions about which of the sacred cows we kill or scale back, or maybe now we hold it at a different time of day. And ideally, Stephen, if we do the experiments, if we get started, and if we find something that wins, the engagement and the revenue goes up, and those services that are no longer popular become self-evident and just die off.
Yeah. This is fascinating because, like, we have these conversations all the time. I think when you get together as networks, and all of a sudden now you have the rubric of, can you kill it or not? Like, you've got this out there that people can actually go through a step process and understand, maybe in different segments, or an individual offering that you have, or event or something. Like, yeah, does it sustain? Do you need to keep
Yeah,
it?
and the corollary on that too is that maybe we are able to do more. Maybe we don't necessarily have to cut things, although there's, you always want to cull something, but maybe we'll be able to do more if we better understand how to use AI.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
just become more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned Fox Cities in Wisconsin, and their model Chamber Connect. Great name, by the way, Chamber Connect, where they offer free memberships to independent small restaurants. Their whole sign-up process, they've got a chat bot with an AI avatar that helps manage that whole relationship, so that it minimizes the amount of time that your staff need to take on routine stuff. And so your staff can, by using various technologies, be it AI or project management software or communication software, or Hootsuite and timing your communications, etc. Whatever your tech stack is, in theory, it should be able to help your team eliminate routine tasks and focus on more value added, higher order stuff.
Todd, I'm taking this and I'm playing it for my board because I brought in an ROI calculator this year and a chatbot because, listen, there's only three of us. And people are not looking for answers at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 8 o'clock at night. When they're like, oh, I should maybe look up that chamber membership. And because, we obviously track how each website page does and what our bounce rate and all of those things are, we know that our ROI calculator is, really very popular. Does it always convert into a sale? Not immediately, but it will eventually. And the chatbot is fascinating because it trains itself. So to your point, there are so many things out there that chambers can be utilizing and instead of looking at it as a shortcut, I think if we could look at it as a way to free ourselves up to offer more of ourselves to our members, then you can justify the number on the bottom line, because it eventually will make it so that you can, spend that time and then, hopefully, grow your membership or grow your non-dues revenue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm recording that for sure. I love it. I love it. Well, I have so many notes here. I can't even. It was like on our last call with Stu and Shelley. I think I walked away with more homework than I started. So we chatted a little bit about, if you're a one-person board, chamber, things that you could do immediately. So let's say you're new to the chamber network. Let's say I'm a chamber leader and I've got a new staff and I want them to understand the quadrant, for example, why members come to us, what they want to get from us or through us. What are some best practices that you can think of for those people in the chamber network to keep those members engaged? Is it newsletters? Is it changing your newsletter so different segments get different information? Is it inviting different people to different events? How can you make it impactful?
Yeah. So for any business to be a success, you have to start with the customer, right?
Mm.
And so, to our earlier points, talking to your staff, your directors, if you're relatively new, and getting in your mind which members should be visited,
Mm.
which you can meet in group, which you meet at their office, for example. I know I've made lots of mistakes over my 25 years, Melanie, and I'll never forget one member that called me up and said, "Todd, listen to this." And he took a sheet of paper and ripped it. It was the invoice that I had sent to him. And he was one of those community investors. And I made the mistake of simply sending an invoice without, arranging for a meeting and bringing the annual report, etc. So somebody that's new, please don't make the mistake that I did. Identify the 20% of members that you need to visit, and
Mm.
invest the time, and call them up and have conversations, tell them about what you're concerned about for the future and how they can help out. So I call that MBWA, management by walking around.
Oh, I love it.
Very good.
So that, yes, it takes time, but it's well invested time, that's for sure. I think listening to podcasts like this are really important. That's not idle flattery. I honestly believe you folks are doing wonderful things, and the guests that you have, the topics that you're covering, other podcasts that are out there. I mean, I like Read to Lead, for example.
Mhm.
I know the Ontario with Jeff Brown, Ontario. Chamber executives are bringing in Sarah Sladek,
Mm.
who is a guru on generational engagement for associations. She just asked me to join her advisory board, which has just been a wonderful experience for me, where we tackle trends on a quarterly basis. She will be speaking in Belleville in November, but following her, I think can be helpful. Look to associations like Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, Manitoba Executives Chamber, OCC, CEO, our National Association, CCEC. Don't look just in Canada. ACCE is in Philadelphia next July, and just broadens your network and interesting ideas. I went to an American Society of Association Executives meeting in Cleveland earlier this summer. And again, looking outside of chambers of commerce for what some of the trends are, that can be helpful. And then, like I say, knowing your customer is what's most important. Surveys.
Mm.
The Sudbury Chamber of Commerce just completed their policy survey. I know the Brampton Board of Trade does their business confidence index. Um, if you don't have time to do focus group, hire somebody like me, or
Mhm.
someone that can facilitate a focus group for you. Read what millennial businesses are reading, Fast Company, Inc., HBR. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can keep your ear to the ground and your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your business community. And those are just some of them that I think I'd recommend.
Well, and I think that people vote too with how they spend their time with us. So they may be paying their bill, but I track if we send a newsletter out and we don't immediately have an uptick in event registrations, that tells me there's something up. The messaging isn't as strong as we need it to be. We're sending it maybe at the wrong time of day, or the timing of the event isn't ideal. And to your point with risk taking, you have to be willing. We had a business summit that I pulled the plug on. I didn't cancel it. I just postponed it. I said, people are telling us they don't want to come to this right now. So let's change it. And it was very favorable.
Melanie, let's drill down a little bit deeper on this. In my 25 years of chambering, there were certain rules of thumb, like we hold events before 9 or after 5 because we don't want to interfere with your business day. That's wrong now.
Mm.
For many,
Mhm.
they would prefer to meet at 10 or 10:30 or 2 or 2:30 because demographic shifts, not only do they have to pick up the kids, they've got to take care of an older or elder parent.
Mhm.
COVID changed our lifestyles in such a way that we may not want to go to that chamber breakfast anymore. We prefer to walk our dog or not miss a workout.
Mhm.
So we can't rely on those old rules of thumb anymore. We need to survey and ask and experiment. We always delivered our services Monday to Friday. Well, there are a lot of Gen Z and Xers that would love to do something fun with a business group of people on a Saturday at the appropriate, I don't know what time it would be, but and our business after fives, nobody comes out till 9 or 10 o'clock. So we really have to rethink. We really have to, and I know I'm not going to be there.
I need younger staff.
But they don't want me there,
Yeah.
and the person that we hire or the volunteer from that
Mhm.
demographic can, if we properly orient them, and it's so much easier to do that now with Chat GPT. We can put together
Mhm.
volunteer job descriptions, and we can put together
Mhm.
maybe not a task force and a committee, because a lot of this generation isn't really interested in long-term sitting around
Yeah.
a table. They're interested in action. So let's call them campaigns, and let's make them campaigns, and let's some of them just might be exploratory campaigns. They don't have to solve the problem that you're looking at. They can just come up with possible solutions, and then the next campaign can come along and prioritize, and which one are we going to put in place. So
You know what I love about this is that, you can be hopeful with this kind of strategy. So instead of worrying about losing the members you have, and let's face it, there's an evolution to how long, people quit gyms, they quit chambers, they quit marriages, who knows, right? But the point is that when there's more of a market out there that you can attract, you're not so worried about keeping holding on to the ones you've had.
yeah, I mean, even the most successful chambers in a town your size, or in Parkland, for example, your penetration of members, your market penetration of number of members as your numerator, and in terms of the number of businesses in your community, your denominator, it ranges anywhere between 10 and 17%. So your point is, there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
more businesses out there that we could serve. So let's experiment. Let's bring in new technologies. Let's communicate in a different way. Let's rethink and ask questions about time of day, day of
Mhm.
week, and it's not that risky to do those things.
Is it really only 10 to 17%?
Yeah. I mean, in your smallest communities, like a beach town, for example, they might have 70% of businesses on Main Street are members of the Chamber of Commerce. But for most chambers of commerce, and it's between 10 and 17%. There's there's a lot of free riders out there, a lot of folks that are benefiting that aren't contributing, and we need to change our business models to get them engaged and to better represent. And I think that time is now. We're at the
Well,
tipping point.
I'm curious a little bit too, like going way back to the beginning, but like you mentioned how there's some structures where everybody's a chamber member, but like you get those bylaws or something. If we can make that hyper local and get people where it's everybody as a chamber member, it's mandated in a way. That, not too bad. Could be fun. It comes with its own problems
Imagine,
and unique challenges, but it is fascinating.
imagine trying to get the votes at your AGM though. If, we already got it down to 10% that we need for proxies for an AGM. If I had every business as a member, I might cry with that. But I do like that concept, right? It's like there's a seat at the table for everyone. So you got to play around with that a little bit, right? But I do like that concept.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
yes,
if you
here's
want to check,
something.
go ahead, Stephen.
I was just quickly going to say, like, there is a chamber, and I can't remember who it was, but did come into my radar probably at a CCEC event where their membership is based off of business licenses, in order to be a business in a community, you have to have a business license in that particular one. So they had all of their in theoretically they had all their businesses in their community as a member.
Yeah, they had. I think I remember what you were referring to, and they had the chamber had a really good working relationship with the clerk's department, and every time a new business license came about, the chamber had an opportunity to pitch it for membership. So yeah.
Love that. Wow.
Yeah. Just for the sake of time, just in case we haven't covered anything, Todd, is there anything else you want to share? I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here, but maybe we kind of skipped something for you.
Tell yourself, tell us how you can help us coming on as a consultant.
Great. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is a new chapter in my life and it's very exciting. I feel very grateful. Our colleagues have been very generous in inviting me in to speak with their boards, to speak with their members, either in speaking engagements or contracts like focus groups, surveys, strat plan facilitations, just some coaching, which I'm doing some coaching with chamber executives now as well, which has been really, really wonderful. And that's what I think I'd like to leave you with is take care of yourself.
Mm.
This is a time in history that there's a lot of change going on, and you need to take care of yourself, of your mental health. There are people out there like me and others that can help you on a short-term basis to do the things that you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have a chance to get to. But don't let it make you crazy. There are folks out there that can commiserate with you, that can be inspirational with you, can help you find the steps to bring some hope as well. But don't let it eat at you. There are lots of people that want to help. So
That's
Thank you.
wise words.
That's the biggest note I wrote down so far is hire Todd.
Hire-
So there we go.
Well, and you've got that great blog, Let's Talk. Great, great
yeah.
play on your name. I love, and I visit that regularly. What I love about you said about the network, Todd, is exactly why we put this podcast together. This is, and I've been around a while. I've had a few different leadership jobs. This is the most unique job I've ever had in the amount of things we're supposed to be good at and be experts at.
Yeah.
And it can be
Yeah.
overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
network helps.
thank you for mentioning Let's Talk. I'm still getting used to all this business development stuff I have to do for myself. So I rely on friends like you. Thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, you can take a look at that on my website. I have one about overcoming being overwhelmed because I believe it's really important for us to take care of ourselves. But you're right. How fortunate are we? I mean, we sit in the center of three concentric rings, right? We have the trust of business. We give advice to government, and it benefits the community, the impact that we have in the community. There's no other job that has that influence, that advice, that trust. And yes, we need to be grateful for it. But yes, it's important that we don't get overwhelmed either, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with our roles as well.
Well, Todd, we're so fortunate that you were able to come and spend time with us today. So thanks for talking us about not only where chambers are, but where we need to be headed in order to make sure we're still relevant and on that in that field for our members. I want to say I hope we can have you come back at some point. I feel like there's a million other things that we could talk to you about, but we're so grateful for your time today, and I encourage everyone to check out Let's Talk and head over to Todd's website. We'll make sure to include that information in the show credits.
Well, that's fantastic. Melanie, Stephen, you're doing great work. I will come back anytime. I believe in what you're doing. I want you to be successful. So if I can provide you with any content, by all means, just give me a call, okay?
Super. Thanks.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
everyone. That's it for the Chamber Connection today with Todd.
Bye now.